Hello and welcome to Cinemondo with Kathy and Lara. And guess what, people? We finally saw Kantara.
Oh, it was so
Finally.
good. Yay.
The only way we could see it, it was like theaters that were like 100 miles away from me. And now it just came on Amazon Prime. Oh, so excited when I saw that. Thank you, Ken, for the heads up. So
Thank
very
you for all the
excited.
heads up.
Oh my God, we get so many comments about this movie, about how great it is and just how insane the ending is and how mind blowing. So I was very excited to see this movie.
Super pumped. It was really good. I was very excited to watch it.
Yep. And it was Kannada, which, you know, we've been hitting up a few Kannada films lately, which I'm glad for. KGF Town.
I mean, I'll never say no to those.
So this is Rishab Shetty. He's acting in, directing in, writing in Kantara. He did it all. One-man show. It's amazing how many people do that. I don't know how they do that.
I don't understand. I could never, fathom the whole concept.
Directing is hard enough by itself. Directing would be, hard, and let alone writing and directing it. Obviously a labor of love. He really cared about it. It was and you could tell it was very personal because it was very tight, very, it got a little bit tiny. I'm just saying, a little bit tiny long in the middle.
Yeah, I don't want to say it dragged, but I feel like we could have cut that.
I don't want to say it dragged, but it dragged.
Does it have to be 2 hours long? Like, can it just be like 140?
Yeah, I know.
120 tops?
I know, seriously. So I love how they started off with some of the mythology. I mean, well, not mythology, but the history, 1847, and the king, has decided he's going to give a portion of the forest to the locals so they can use it and survive on it. And everything was great for a while until 1970 when all the groovy hairstyles came in. Looking really good. I love the bell bottoms and the holding of the belt. No, I love those 70s looks. They're so fun.
I know.
So we had a brief moment in the 70s. So the successor came in and he messed everything up. So I guess what he did was he kind of raises doubt about them actually being protected, by the demigod and all that. And so then all of a sudden, politics got involved. And so he ended up getting cursed and he died, or they said natural causes. And then they show this shot of him choking on his own blood.
No, he legit was cursed.
I guess technically natural causes, but not. No.
Right.
And by the way, people, this is going to be spoilerific, just so you know. Spoilers.
Oh, yeah. We're all the things.
And as we get into the meat, we'll say the meat of Kantara, since that's what this whole thing was about, technically. I want to tell everyone to join our membership. Join our membership. We have stuff. We have emojis, member shout outs, priority replies. Ken Adams, shout out to Ken Adams.
Woo-hoo!
Technically, a lot of people asked for this, but he's the one that told us first that it was available to watch on streaming. And if you're a member, you get to request videos, which is what you got to do if you want to get our attention. And the biggest, coolest part is you get on the personal Slack channel, and then you can talk to us in person and ask for videos, requests.
And tell us that we're wrong. It's fine.
Argue with us. That's fine. Okay. I'm for it. So anyway, so here we go into Kantara. So then it's basically the 90s. Rishab Shetty plays Shiva, who's kind of a dick. He kind of runs the town, right? He's kind of a gangster. He's kind of he kind of rules everything with basically threats and bullying. And they have that great race. The whole beginning was great. So bright and colorful and funny, and that dance at the beginning with the demigod was so great.
I thought that the villagers loved Shiva.
I think they kind of did, but then they didn't, right?
Well,
I mean,
but then the current landlord or the person who owned the land at that time, even kind of liked him too.
Yeah.
But then, I feel like at some point the villagers were like, what you doing?
Well, because he wasn't cool sometimes. He brought the fun and he supported people, but then when it came to the race, he just insisted he didn't lose and then beat people up until they awarded him the first place, which was
wasn't. And then that was the landlord, and there was it was when he discovered the landlord's conspiracy, right?
And it played the same way with us. I wanted to like him. He was really funny and charming, but then he had that temper, and then he was really super a criminal, and he was hunting and poaching, which I really didn't like. Like, there's a
No,
few
the
things I didn't like
animals.
in this. One is the hunting. Hated that. Didn't like the cockfighting. That was don't do
Nope,
that.
don't do it.
And the racing with the bulls, that was okay because they took really good care and they seemed to care about the bulls. And that ultimately, funny, I thought it was going to be more about that, but it wasn't. That was kind of just the introduction to like
The
how
whole
he's a
thing.
sore loser. Just refuses
Yeah.
to accept the fact that he didn't win. They're going to beat up the winners. That was his solution.
Well, and then he starts having all of those like dreams or visions.
Yes, he's having nightmares. That's right.
Yep. And then like eventually we find out that that boar is kind of like an avatar for Vishnu. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they like tied a few different gods into this. So that it was, we don't normally see that, but
that was cool.
And then there was the song in the middle.
That was like, the comedy romance song of like him being all handsy and her sort of liking and not sort of liking it. And
I know, I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Then they had the creepy guy spying on the woman in the showers, which also wasn't cool.
Well, it got a little cringy, right? You're like,
it wasn't good. Yeah, it was borderline. So, but it was adorable, but not. So he insisted on continuing to poach because he felt like it's his forest. He ends up being confronted by the forest officer who's trying to conserve the land. They're turning it into a reserve, which they need. And they make a point of talking about how the villagers are basically chopping down all the trees, and pretty soon there won't be any forest left. And so they need to stop before it goes too far. But the landlord doesn't care because, he's making money off of it. So he's like, fine, go ahead. Yeah. So Shiva's part of that. He's out there. I'm going hunting with my forest. I'm going to go kill boar. And, technically people didn't like them killing boar either. Like they were very against it. Like the women are like, what did you do? So it's hard for me to feel much sympathy for a poacher. They're like the enemy number one for me. So I had problems with Shiva there. So we're not liking that. So it was a little problematic. This film had a few problems there at the beginning because, again, your loyalties were sort of, I don't know. And besides the fact the forest officer was super hot. I'm just going to say it.
I know. Well, I love that actor. You want your loyalties to be to Shiva and the but you're not. It's the villagers. Like those are the people that you care more about.
You care about them, and also the fact is they were kind of in a way they also needed to use the forest because just to live. And like when they were trying to bring vegetables out there, the forest officer was like, "No, you can't do this anymore." They're like, "Why? We've always done it." And it's like, well, that's over now because. So it's very complicated how.
Sorry, we're mining this now.
Yeah, we're going to keep strip mining it till there's nothing left, and then we're going to complain that we have nothing left to do. But at the same time, you see the complexity of like, well, what are they supposed to do? Like, they should conserve the forest. Everyone agrees, but how do they live? How do they eat? How they, So it was a very complicated issue. And I thought they did a pretty good job of making it, involve a criminal element because they always do. It's always involving a criminal element. But he was sort of a cool badass. I kind of liked again, I was like, am I supposed to not like this guy because I liked him because I'm always on the side of nature? But Shiva was part of Shiva's problem because he was such a dick.
Yeah, so that's where this he has this like redemption story, right?
Yeah.
Like
yes,
that's like the line that he's got because we're supposed to we like him, but then we don't like him, and then he kind of attempts to redeem himself towards the end.
Right, and he only kind of does it because he has to. Right, and
because it wasn't even like he
was the
wanted
lesser
to.
of two evils because the landlord, we'll just say he was the true bad guy, right? So it ended up like, well, we thought the forest officer was a bad guy, but it's way worse than that. So we're gonna do that. I mean, so Chris Hoare is the name of the actor who plays the forest officer. He was in like Penny and Selvin. He's been in a ton of stuff. You'll recognize him if you see him. He's great. He's always great. Dominates the scene, super dynamic, so it was hard for me to hate him because I already liked him.
I know.
So I'm like, I'm not going to hate this guy. I'm sorry. He's on the side of the animals and he's cool in other movies.
Right? Like he's the forest officer.
Someone has to save the forest, people. But I also liked how Shiva's gang was kind of comedic and dorky. Like they were kind of like, not really super smart. One guy was a horn dog. This one to, spy on women in showers and they made fun of that woman with the big horse teeth that he thought was so pretty. I love the close up of her teeth and then the cut to the cattle, the bull teeth.
Yeah. And they're like, oh.
was so funny. I'm like, that was pretty snarky. That was pretty funny. So a few of my notes, I'm looking at this thing. It's entertaining and lively, not too heavy. So at the beginning, it was like a lot lighter than I thought. We had that kind of comedic song where he's driving the girl around when she's getting her ranger training.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But I also loved her complexity because here she finally had her dream of becoming a forest officer. Now she's the enemy.
Right.
Ugh, that was sad. She was very
I know.
confused. I know. It was really sad. But, she can do better than Shiva. He wasn't cool. He was not good.
Yeah, considering he,
Yeah, it was a little borderline what happened there.
Yeah.
That didn't look good.
Kind of.
Looked a little rapey to me. And then, but so there's that. There's some storyline issues, but I did love how it kind of built. Like, again, it could have built up a little faster, but they were giving us a lot of character. I love how they dumped the. Well, I don't love. I like the kind of bait and switch where they jumped the dead body. His childhood friend dumped him. Who was the performer? Dumped him in the front of the house, and he was stabbed. And you assume it's the forest guy because, of course, it would be him, right? Turns out, no, not.
Just kidding.
Haha.
Just kidding.
You. Again, terrible landlord. It always looked to the rich guy. Like, rich guy's always the bad guy. I mean,
right? And so I loved some of those like nighttime like forest scenes.
Oh yeah,
where they were like hunting or doing whatever.
Doing whatever.
The small jump scares you got out of those, right? Like, they were so great. And I'm like, oh, how did that happen? Why do I have this jump scare?
We're in the forest hunting again.
But in the dark, and we have this little tiny lantern, and I promise you guys can see me.
And I feel sorry for the boar. I just do. They're not just pigs to me. They're cute animals in the woods, and they don't. And also, that one was very dressed up. They had necklaces and bracelets on.
He was fancy.
So cute. I loved him, and he was very CGI, but I liked it because he wasn't supposed to be real anyway. He was kind of a god.
And I liked. It was interesting that they were like hunting the boar, and mainly, and all those visions were supposed to be like because of the demigod. And I'm like, but who like is supposed to be the spirit of a wild male boar that they were hunting?
I know, it's like, guys, do you see the problem here that you're hunting?
You now understand, like, it's trying to help save you, and you keep hunting.
Hey, look, there's a boar with like lots of jewelry on. I'm gonna kill it. It's like, don't you think there's something more to it than that? And you probably shouldn't kill a boar wearing necklaces.
Probably not.
It's a lot of redemption in this. Like, eventually you find out that he's not even really the bad guy. The forest guy's not even really a bad guy. It's the rich guy who will do anything to keep his money in his pocket. We finally build to this great, crazy ending where they finally have this big confrontation with the villagers and the forest people, and they join forces because that's
that final like fight scene was amazing. And then like the whole thing was just like visually like amazing. Like, but it was so good. And I loved how like the villagers like kind of tried to fight back too.
Yeah.
Like, that was so great. And I'm like, oh, but like, don't get murdered.
They were trying. They weren't fighters. And I also love how they're fighting with burning logs. That was a great weapon.
That was my favorite part. The burning log was like the most amazing part.
So good.
Bodyguard, lackey guy. Like, just I mean, came out of nowhere. I'm like, why didn't we not see him like before? Was he just like hiding off till just back?
I know, that was pretty funny. Well, there was the one who was a double agent. You find that out. That didn't last very long.
Yes.
And also, I like the fake out where the tree. That was also killing me too. Him cutting down the biggest tree in the forest. Like, dude, don't kill.
Like,
how old was that tree? And it falls.
How many rings did it have?
Right. Like that one tree is older than all of your ancestors. But I love how on the Jeep and they all thought they had killed the guy. The forest ranger just fooled you. Couldn't tell if that was on purpose. And so then we have, I love, there's also the fight scene at the end where he does that great scene where he finds a machete and he jumps up and just goes and just swings in a circle and just chops everyone down. That was awesome. That was great. Well, I think he was not quite dead.
Possessed, right? He was definitely dead. Dude, he got slammed in the head. Like,
I know, but they did so much damage to people and they were breaking their backs and like doing terrible fighting, and they would survive. pounding on their chest. But he did bleed on the rock that had the symbol on it. So I guess that summoned the demigod, who then came down and yelled in his ear. He did that. Whoa!
I wondered what that was about. Okay, so that makes way more sense now.
I think.
It just says he's resurrected by the demigod.
Okay, he could have been dead.
Superhuman power.
And he did. He was so cool. When he comes back, his performance was crazy. Like
I know.
Like he's all like super jammed up, and he was through. Was that rice? Like eating rice and spewing everywhere. And he was
and
jumping around.
So the whole time, the villagers are like praying, right, for his protection, which I thought was kind of like a tie back to the very beginning.
Yep.
Of the film, when the king gave them the land in the first place. So, but wow, what a good, like, that whole scene was amazing. It was so much fun. It was
because you didn't expect that from him, because you kind of think you had his range. You saw the actor, you saw what he was doing. To see him do that was kind of like, whoa, what? And then they have, of course, the great song at the end. It was a little different than the one I originally saw.
It was so cool, so good. And
I love that dancing in wardrobe. It's so good.
Yes, like as always, the costuming is like fantastic and by far the most amazing.
So good. And it has a little stinger at the end, a little tiny sort of semi post-credit ending where they kind of feel like they're continuing something. I mean, I don't know if there could be a part 2. I guess there could be. I mean, there's always going to be bad guys and environmental issues. I guess they can do it again.
It's so true.
I don't know.
But yeah, I did like that little like throwback to like, so now that's his son, and it's got to be what, like 8 years later or something ridiculous.
I mean, I like how he, as a demigod, went into the forest and met up with the other demigod, and there were 2 of them. And almost felt like, are we going to have both of them, or will they combine? It was hard to tell because they kind of spun and then they were gone, but it felt like now they have 2 gods, or the 2 gods have joined powers, and now we're really protected because we have double the god power. I don't know. But it was super fun, super entertaining, and actually was a lot lighter. I always expect these movies to be darker because the topic is kind of dark. Yes. But they end up being super entertaining and very, very fun to watch.
It was super fun. I was really excited that, like,
we finally got to see it.
I know.
Finally. I'm sorry, you guys. America's is hard. It's hard to see Indian movies here. They're getting better, though. I mean, RRR you can see anywhere, but this, we had to wait. We had to wait for that.
This was hard. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks to everybody for keeping on to see this movie. It was not a letdown at all. I just totally enjoyed it. It was just absolutely epic. When I tell people what Indian movie I should watch, I'm always like RRR, and then I'm going to add Kantara. Those are the 2 so far that I think are just stand out. You know, they're just gorgeous. And
this was so good.
So good. So, all right, you guys, let us know what you thought of Kantara. I know you've all seen it by now, but we just saw it. We're very excited. Tell us what we got wrong. Tell us what we got right. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.